Hey,
Hi.
welcome to another episode of the B-Roll podcast. Tonight is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a two-part series. For those who listened to last week's episode or have been following online, last week we had announced the glorious news that we were pregnant and we were due to have a baby in August. However, over this last week, we found out that our baby no longer had a heartbeat, and our world kind of came crashing down. So tonight we're going to talk about the physical side of that, the medical side. What we've experienced from, honestly, before we even got pregnant, because I have some to share on that until this week. And next week, in part 2, we're going to talk about the orthodox and spiritual side of what we've experienced through this. So I do want to, before we really dive in, I want to go ahead and give a trigger warning for anyone listening who has experienced miscarriage, pregnancy loss, infant loss. If this is a subject that is too painful, please don't listen at this time. And if you would like to, please DM me. We would love to pray for you. And we are sorry for what you have also experienced. But this is these 2 episodes this week and next week are going to be emotional. And we're going to share a lot. And I just want to go ahead and just put that out there for anyone who this may be a hard subject for. I get started?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Well, I guess we can start. We're not going to do our traditional, what are you reading, kind of banter back and forth stuff, since these are a little bit more emotional. But I do want to share the book that I am reading right now. So I'm currently reading A Christian Ending, which is a handbook for burial in the ancient Christian tradition, written by Deacon Mark and Elizabeth Barna, who actually, their daughter-in-law is my godmother, and we are good friends with Mark and Elizabeth. We used to attend Holy Ascension with them, and we miss them. But it's funny, I gifted this book to RJ for Christmas a few years ago, which is kind of an interesting Christmas gift, to give a book on dying and what to do after death. And reading it now, I wish I had read it sooner. So the reason I picked it up, we are currently in preparations for putting Basil to rest. Basil is the name of our baby that we just lost. We'll dive into that a little bit more. And I wanted to make sure that everything we were doing and the way we were preparing, we were doing as best as we could, true to Christian practices, the Orthodox way. It's a little bit of a different scenario with what we're experiencing, but I still wanted to make sure that we're doing this as aligned with our beliefs as possible. And I'm really only a little bit ways into the book so far, but it is a phenomenal book so far. It talks about all the different types of burials and cremations and ways that people would
be put to rest.
Yeah. It's from ancient civilizations up till modern times. But what it really comes down to in an Orthodox Christian burial is keeping it simple and humble. As simple as possible. The entire point is just returning the body to the earth in the simplest way. And I love that they brought up such an interesting topic about America's way of doing burials and funerals. Going through the process after losing my brother, we went through a funeral home and he was cremated. He was not Orthodox, and he was cremated, and the discussion around the types of urns to get and the type of funeral service and the time slots and the cost and the payment plans and all these different things, it all came down to money. It wasn't even about his death. It wasn't even about him. It was about the money. And America in itself is a consumer-driven economy. We are so caught up in needing to buy the next thing the biggest influencer promotes and all these things. And in the American way, we've also taken that into death. The most expensive casket, the best plot in the cemetery. I mean, people spend tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars just on their death, and they can't take any of it with them. And so I thought that it was really interesting that they talk about that. But also in a Christian perspective, in general Christianity, across all denominations, we start, if you are a Christian and you're brought in some way, shape, or form, you are immediately brought into the Christian faith, whether it's baptism or you're being dedicated in a non-denominational church or some form of that, right? And you're brought through this entire life with this Christian-led beliefs. And sometimes it looks different depending on your denomination, but basically you follow his whole life. But then there's a gap, right? Your whole life you've lived with community and small groups and Bible studies and all these things, but then you die. And there is a gap where the church is no longer the center of your death. The community is no longer the center of your death. Your family can't handle the death. And so they hand the death off to funeral homes to manage. And all of a sudden bodies are being prepared by strangers. And it's no longer a community effort. And this is also stuff that they talk about that is just, it's phenomenal. I don't mean to dive too deep into this, but it's helping paint a perspective for our own deaths that we will go through, but also for what we're doing in preparing for Basil. Simple and humble and community and church-centered. The family should be preparing the person and so forth. And so for us with Basil, you're building his box.
Yeah.
We're keeping it as simple as we can. I mean, we don't know all the final details as to how it's going to work out with the monastery yet. I wouldn't mind if I would hope that we could be involved in digging of his grave in some way. I don't know what all that looks like yet, but we are keeping it as centered around our church because Father's going to come do a service there with us, and centered around keeping it simple for him and simple for us too. It's really just us going. It's just our family. So phenomenal book. Everyone should read it. Every Christian should read it, especially if you're Orthodox. You should read this. So that is what I'm currently reading, and I guess we can get started.
Before we do anything else, do you want to do your free ad read of the week?
Yeah. So if you've been listening to the show, we do a free ad every single week of an Orthodox company. And this week, I am doing an ad for my dear friend and who is going to be somehow a doula for us with Basil. Although she's due to have a baby very soon before me, so we're figuring all that out. But Catherine Barker, Matushka Catherine, she's out of Ohio. She owns the company, The Sanctified Womb. I know many Orthodox women know her and know of her blog, and she has shared so many resources around miscarriage and infant loss and pregnancy loss. She herself was a nurse in labor and delivery. She has doula experience. She has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to pregnancy and hormones and fertility. And she has a care kit available on Etsy too, and I think her website for miscarriage that you can send as a gift to a loved one. And her blog has so many resources. So I'll be sure to tag her in the show notes. Catherine is a really good friend who we love dearly. And if you're someone, or if you know of someone who has currently or has in the past gone through loss who you think could benefit from other resources or a gift care pack, definitely check her out. Okay.
Do you want to talk about the pregnancy? for Basil and how the last 8 weeks were?
Yeah, for me, so we talked about this before we started the podcast episode. It's probably going to be a lot of me in this episode.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to start from before the pregnancy even, because for me, this has felt even longer than the last 8.5 weeks. Because we joke, you and I, a little bit about trying, right? We have very close friends of ours who've struggled with infertility and stuff, and my heart goes out to them. But this was the first time I felt like I really had to work for a pregnancy. Like, it's not something you and I have experienced.
Yeah.
At least 2 of our children were definite surprises. and as we've gotten to know cycle syncing and family planning and stuff more, we understand it more and kind of can plan better. And that was what I was trying to do with Basil. We were both ready to have another baby. You are just much more of a stoic, relaxed person that you're just like, whatever happens, happens. God brings us a child.
Don't track anything. Don't take pregnancy tests. You'll know if you're pregnant. You'll find out eventually.
I am the polar opposite.
Yeah.
I am type A, track everything. And I was peeing on ovulation sticks, tracking every bit of my cycle. I was getting hormone panel tests done, checking nutrient levels. We got to the point where we talked to Father about dispensations for me for fasting because of my iron levels and nutrient levels and stuff. Like, I was heavily involved in us getting pregnant. And for months, it felt like, on my end at least. So for me, this feels like it's been a much longer process than just the last 8.5 weeks, because I tried so hard for us to get pregnant and was so ready for another baby. So then we got pregnant, and I found out early, as I always do, because I had a feeling. I was feeling all my normal pregnancy things, plus this dog is a built-in pregnancy test and became extra clingy to me. And as we shared last week on the announcement, I found out, and at first I thought I was going to keep it from you until Christmas, but then I didn't make it a few hours and told you in the middle of liturgy. So everything in the beginning was okay and was normal. Nothing was wrong in the very, very beginning, other than the fact that I was cramping. Which
talk about that.
Well, at the time, I think I kept looking at where I was, how far along we were. I was like, maybe this could be implantation cramping. And I got scared because the cramping felt worse than what I had normally felt in other pregnancies. The cramping has been one of the biggest issues this pregnancy. But I was like, maybe it's just implantation. But for some reason, looking back now, like, the cramping was a big issue this pregnancy. And it wasn't, so I found out the Sunday before Thanksgiving that we were pregnant, which then you also found out that same day. And then it wasn't long, I think it was the day after Thanksgiving, we were 4 weeks pregnant. We thought we were further along. I thought I was 5 weeks, but the ultrasound showed us we were dating a week behind our due date. The doctors were all like, did you ovulate late? Like, they were actually confused as to why my due date, because based off of where my period was, I should have been 5 weeks, but baby was dating and size-wise a week behind from the very beginning. And so even the doctors were confused. But basically I had really, really bad cramping. Like, I was in fetal position and in bed, and I started crying and I felt faint. And I was not okay. And I looked at you, I was like, you have to take me to the hospital. Like, this is not normal. Something's wrong.
You couldn't get out of bed?
No. So you took me down to the hospital. At first, we were thinking it was an ectopic pregnancy, the way the pain was presenting. That's what we were scared of.
Yeah, from the symptoms and everything. Most especially the pain.
Yeah. So we got to the hospital. They do the ultrasound, ruled out an ectopic pregnancy. There was an egg sac, but they couldn't see a yolk. They could not see the embryo yet. But
it was still too early.
It was still too early, yeah. Because I was dating a week behind. So it was normal for that time. when we got the ultrasound, but they did find the hematoma at that time. So that's when everything really started. So the hematoma was 17 millimeters. It was close to 2 centimeters. It was fairly large, sitting right on top of the baby, who at that time was only the size of a chia seed. So imagine a chia seed with a 2 centimeter hematoma sitting right on top of it. Like, and a hematoma is basically a big bruise, but it's also an active bleed. Like, there was an active bleed happening inside with it. And I was like spotting a lot. So we got the hematoma diagnosis. And so when the hematoma happened, I started doing co-care, because originally we were planning for straight home birth. We were just going to have Ashley again, which is our midwife, and I love her. When we found the hematoma, we decided to go the route of co-care, meaning we would have Ashley still. She was our primary midwife, but we were also working with the OBs of the hospital because of them being able to track the hematoma throughout the beginning of the pregnancy. We could get the ultrasounds through insurance.
Yeah, we wanted to use the doctors until we got to a safe point in the pregnancy.
Which we were hoping was going to be the anatomy scan, the way that everything was going.
Right.
So the hematoma explained all the cramping, and I started spotting, which is normal. Honestly, they said hematomas happen in a lot of pregnancies. Most women don't even know that they have them.
Yeah, subchorionic hematoma.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have one and not even know.
Yeah. We had one with Josie that didn't cause any issues with having Josie. The only issue was that when she was born, it caused membranes of my placenta to stick to my uterine wall, where the hematoma was. So that was the only issue. And that one was much smaller than the one that I have with Basil. And I have lots of friends who've had hematomas that it didn't cause any problems. Now I have other friends who have had hematomas that ended up having the exact same experience as us, where unfortunately it ends in a miscarriage. Because hematomas do make you significantly higher risk for a miscarriage. That was one of the first things they warned us about when we were diagnosed with the hematoma. Ashley, my midwife, put me on basic form of bed rest, like I had just had a baby. Full pelvic rest, couldn't lift anything, couldn't lift Josie. And it was hard because at the time, we hadn't even announced anything. So I'm on Instagram just like, hey, I'm on bed rest, but I can't tell you why. So that was an experience in itself for me, just in the online space with my community, because I'm like, this is weird. My family, I'm a stay-at-home mom. My husband works full-time, a 9-to-5 job. I can't do my normal things. I can't pick up my youngest. And I also can't tell you why. Just that I was going through something that put me on bed rest. And so that was a month of being on bed rest. We had tried.
It was 3 weeks. It was the first Friday in December where we went to the hospital.
Okay.
And then it was Christmas Day or Eve that you posted it on
Christmas
social media,
Day,
and in between those times, we slowly told a lot of people because we needed prayers.
Yeah, so we had told our loved ones first about the pregnancy. We were going to wait, but we told them because we needed prayers and we needed support.
Yeah.
We had people bringing us dinners. We had people helping to watch the kids. We needed a lot of support since I was on bed rest. And we needed a lot of prayers because of the risk we were at with the size of the hematoma. So the Wednesday, a full week before Christmas, we went for another ultrasound to check on the size of the hematoma. We went to that ultrasound and we got to see Basil. And he had a heartbeat. He had a steady heart rate of 121. And he was there. The relief that came over the both of us when we got to see that he had a heartbeat, because they wouldn't play his heartbeat for us because they said it was too loud on the ultrasound. They'd have to do it on the Doppler at the OB appointment. But it was still too even early for that. But they saw he had a heartbeat. And the relief, you even just put your head down and you looked at the radiologist and you were like, we have 3 kids at home and it doesn't matter how many kids, you just never get over this. Like, this is amazing. That's another baby. And we got a picture. We got 2 pictures of him. That was what we used to show the kids on Christmas, that they were getting another brother.
Or sister.
Or sister. We didn't know he was a boy. I had a feeling, but we didn't know anything.
Yeah. Another sibling.
They were getting another sibling, yeah. But he had a heartbeat. And then the Monday before Christmas, I had another OB appointment. And they did this little hand ultrasound. It was still too early for a Doppler to get the heartbeat. But they did like a little hand. Apparently, they make ultrasounds that look like cell phones now. And that's what this literally looked like. She was able to see baby again, and she was able to see his heart beating again. I never got to hear his heartbeat, but we got to see it. And we thought everything was fine. So that ultrasound, when we first saw his heartbeat, the hematoma had went from 17 millimeters down to 10. Or down to 12, sorry. Down to 12. It had shrunk. And it was showing that it was shrinking. And then the OB appointment where she did the handheld ultrasound, it showed that the hematoma looked even smaller and it went to the bottom of my uterus. So it was no longer on top of the baby anymore either. And my spotting had significantly increased, which we thought was just the hematoma was like just coming out basically and just healing. Instead of hematomas can basically do a couple of different things. They can most of the time just reabsorb themselves into the body. The other time they'll just come out, basically. So that's what we thought mine was doing. The spotting was scary. I had been spotting for a while.
Almost the whole
time.
At least like the last 3 weeks at least.
But I was told that there was a distinct difference between spotting for the hematoma and spotting for a miscarriage. Spotting for the hematoma is old blood. Sometimes it can be bright red, but most of the time it's like dark brown, rust colored. That's what mine was. And it's also only when you go to the bathroom. You're not spotting through pads and stuff with a hematoma usually. It's just usually when you go to the restroom. And that's what mine was for weeks. And I clung to that. I clung to the fact that that was my spotting.
Because you were still cramping too.
Yeah.
And it would get worse and then get a little better.
Yeah, there were days where it would be worse, days where it was better. Laying down and resting truly kept it fine. And then New Year's Eve came. I know you and so many others have said it's not my fault. But we knew the hematoma was getting smaller. We knew it was healing. And I was told that if I felt okay, I could start moving again. Slowly, but I could move. So I cleaned our kitchen. And I started cleaning out parts of the house. It was New Year's. I didn't want to go into the new year with a messy house. I had barely been able to do anything over the last month through the house. I was going crazy. I wanted to be able to clean the house anyways. And I vacuumed. And the spotting got worse. And I started bleeding more. But this time it wasn't only whenever I went to the bathroom, it was going through pads. And it was red. It was bright red and fresh. And I started texting Ashley. We were supposed to go to a friend's house that night on New Year's Eve. We canceled our plans. My cramping had started getting so much worse that evening. And we said that if it didn't get better, we would go to the hospital the next morning, which was New Year's Day. I know you guys have said that it's not my fault, but I still feel like I carry that guilt because I cleaned my house for the first time in a month. So we went to the hospital on New Year's morning, because it was worse. It was so much worse. There was just so much bleeding that you were getting concerned about the amount of blood I was losing. The cramping was so painful. Like, it wasn't contractions, but there's a difference. With contractions, you have a hormone surge of dopamine that comes with it because your body is getting ready to birth a baby. Your body's getting excited. They're waves. These cramps were painful. I just felt like they were just ripping me. So we went to the ER. And I think at first we were still trying to just we were really praying it wasn't what it was. I think I had come to the resolution that it was, and you kept clinging to, no, we need to have hope. We need to have hope.
Yeah.
Your mom did too, which is where you get it from.
Yeah, but the longer it went on, the harder it was to come up with an alternate reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to, rush into any assumptions before we got to the hospital.
So we got there. The nurse we had was good.
Mm-hmm.
She was a really good nurse. She made us laugh. And they sent us in for the ultrasound. We were nervous also about just the whole, okay, so this episode's about the medical side. So let me paint this picture. We're going to a big Pittsburgh hospital, okay? A hospital that is known and specifically designed for women and pregnancy and birth. It is a women's hospital in the middle of downtown Pittsburgh on New Year's Day, on a holiday. We have no idea what to expect when we even get there. Is it going to be busy? But I just want you to keep in mind, this hospital is for women, primarily pregnant women. That is one of the biggest parts of this hospital. So we get there, and they told us that there was an ultrasound tech in house, but it was a holiday. They weren't sure if they left. Fortunately, the ultrasound tech hadn't left, so they were going to get us in, and it was pretty quick. They took us for the ultrasound, and she started with the normal ultrasound on top of my belly. I couldn't see the screen. She just got quiet. And I kept looking at you, and you couldn't see anything. You couldn't tell what was going on the screen.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was really looking at.
She was really quick on top. And she was like, I have to do transvaginally. I have to get
That's where they see more.
Better anyways. Picture. Yeah.
That's where we saw the heartbeat before.
Yeah. But it was really quick on top. And so we switched to the other ultrasound. And it's just quiet. No one's saying a word. All she said was, she said, I'll tell you when I'm done, where the doctors can tell you. Which I knew. I knew when she said that it wasn't going to be okay if she was giving us the chance for the doctor to tell us. It took a while. God, I felt like the longest. I felt like we were in there for forever. But she was checking everything. She checked for bleeds. She checked my ovaries, everything. And finally we get done. And she says, do you want me to tell you, or do you want the doctor to tell you? And I said, just tell us. We just want to know. She said, the baby's still there, but there's no heartbeat. And that's just when plan I had made. I mean, we were early in the pregnancy, but we've done this before. We have 3 kids. I knew we were going to need a new infant car seat because the one we had from Gemma was expired, so I had already picked out which one we were going to need for this one. I was picking out stuff we would need for the home birth, like which sounds stupid and minimal, but like you make plans. And you can never compare grief. It's not a competition. But I will say, though, that like parents who have children already and then experience a miscarriage, we have experienced the milestones. We've gone through the first birthdays, the first walks, the teeth. We know what we're missing when we lose a baby. And every plan, every dream, gone. There's a baby, but there's no heartbeat. Just gone. And I immediately started apologizing. You were holding me, and I was apologizing to you because I felt like it was my fault because I cleaned the house. And you kept telling me not to apologize. I mean, I don't know how you did it. You were a rock for me in there. They still are. So she tells us. We get wheeled back to the room. And then this is when like the medical issues with like the system started happening.
The coldness of the system.
Yeah. They now we have found through this that there are some angels who are still human. But unfortunately, a majority of the medical system isn't. And they're trained not to be. They're trained to use medical terms. They're trained to be robots because of what they see. But go ahead.
No, it's you're going through it as a singular entity, and this is happening to you and to us. But women's hospital sees this multiple times a day, I'm sure, and in my reflecting on it, try to give as much grace to everyone that's not me as I possibly can, but it's a self-preservation from their standpoint too. If I had to go back and forth to delivering good news and the worst news at my job, 8-12 hours a day in and day out, I'd probably get desensitized, but also just you have to think about pregnancies differently. You don't have to, but I imagine it would be easier
to do that
from a self-preservation standpoint to do that, to think of pregnancies, especially early pregnancies, differently. Now it's not trying to make excuses or anything like that, or it's still very tough when you're the one going through it. But to the medical teams out there that have to do these tests and deliver this terrible news, I can understand where they're coming from when things may seem cold to the patients.
And that was the other part we experienced too. I totally forgot to mention. There's no communication either, because my OB is part of the whole, in Pittsburgh, there's the UPMC health system, right? And it's all spread out. My OB I was seeing was an hour one direction, and the hospital we kept going to was an hour the completely opposite direction. But my OB told me that if the bleeding had picked up because of the hematoma and the risk we were at, we were to go to the labor and delivery floor if we needed to go to the hospital. And I asked her, I said, because when we originally went to the ER and found the hematoma, they said that L&D didn't see anyone under 20 weeks. And so I asked the OB, and she goes, no, this is a different circumstance. Because of your hematoma, go to labor and delivery. And we did that. When we first got to the hospital, before we even found out anything about losing him, we went to labor and delivery first. Got out the little form. They told us to wait. We wait. I'm assuming it was a nurse who came right out and just looked at us. And it wasn't even like they see what's written on the form. They know the reason I'm there. There was no like, hey, I'm really sorry you're here for this, but you have to go here. She came out and said, you have to go to ED. We don't see patients under 20 weeks. And I looked at her and I said, my OB said, come here. I have a hematoma. I am most likely miscarrying right now. And she said, we don't see patients under 20 weeks. You have to go to emergency. It was just robotic face. And I get that. I get the desensitized. But I also don't. Because, not from a patient perspective, from a professional perspective, before we had children, I was a victim's advocate. I worked with victims every single day of domestic violence and sexual assault. Two of the most heinous crimes that happen majorly against women. And I was with those victims. I did medical calls and legal calls. I was in the hospital and I was in court. And not once did I lose my humanity in talking to them. I felt empathy. I felt for them. I cared for them. The simple phrase of, I see you, I hear you, you are being understood, makes such a difference when you are in a traumatic situation, whether it's a crime or medical. Because the OB that we did end up getting connected with later, the DNC, said those words and they made such a difference. So I understand you're doing 12-hour shifts, you're seeing it all the time, but I also don't. Coming from having worked in a similar field. Now, that all being said, my other issue, now granted this could just be the person, this was the experience we had. So we get the ultrasound done, we find out the news, we come back to the room. And our nurse was still, she was great. I don't have nothing bad to say about the nurse. She was doing the best she could. The physician's assistant that we had, though, on our case the whole time. I'm not trying to speak ill. I'm more of just, I want to pray for her. She's told us her story about how she, too, lost a baby at 10 weeks. But she still used the medical terminology to describe that as well. Like, what was the word that they used?
Demise.
Yeah. I don't even think she said like baby. She said my pregnancy, like the fetus.
Demise of the pregnancy.
Yeah, the demise of the pregnancy. And so she even used it on herself, which makes me want to pray for her because like it kind of seemed like she was desensitized to her own trauma that she had went through with that. But to have gone through that experience and still treat us the way we were. I'm not saying she was bad. She could have been better.
It was, I think cold is the best way.
Yes.
There's nothing overtly negative.
It's just cold.
It's just not even, insensitive isn't even the word. It's just procedural. Yeah.
Which, when you're the patient going through that, though, it makes it worse. It makes the trauma worse.
It doesn't make it better. Yeah.
And I think what did it for me the most, like what just set me over the edge, So when we lost John, it was very early. We were like 3 to 4 weeks. It was nothing like this. You were on a work trip. Everything happened at home. Nothing like this. Much further along with Basil. Baby was still in my uterus. Like, there was still things happening. And they gave us the 3 options. We could either have the miscarriage fully at home. We could do a pill, but it would make the pain much worse, which she did. The physician's assistant did open up about that. She said that she didn't opt for that because she also had little kids at home and didn't want to put herself through more pain. So she did talk about that.
That was helpful.
And then the DNC option. But she explained to us that it was New Year's Day and they would not call in an OR team for a DNC unless it was a life-threatening emergency.
Yeah.
Which my case was not. They still did a pelvic exam, and based off of my bleeding, even though it was not heavy enough for it to be life-threatening, which thank God it wasn't life-threatening.
Thank God for that.
However, we had questions because you and I believe in life begins at conception, and we knew that there was still a baby and that there would be something. His remains. What do we do? Like,
what is the most dignified way of moving forward from this point?
Yeah.
So is the other options 1 or 3?
And how do I do my best to save him so we can put him to rest?
Yeah.
And she looked confused by that question. Unfortunately, what I have learned through all this, since posting this online, unfortunately, what it seems is most told, and it's awful, is that you're just told to flush the toilet. Like, it's awful.
People have told you that that's what they were told?
Yeah. I have people who were in the hospital, and they were like, I think I just passed everything, and the doctor walked into the bathroom, looked at it, and said, yeah, go ahead and just flush it. Unfortunately, that is what we've come to as a society. For us, though, I made it very clear that that was basically not going to be an option. And they did the best that they could with what they had. But excuse my friend, it pissed me off. They handed us a plastic cup and a bottle of saline. They were thinking we were going to want to send it in for genetic testing and stuff, which we weren't. We just want to put them to rest. But they handed us a plastic cup with a sticker on top. And it...
barcode. If we wanted to take it to pathology to be tested later, just in case, just to make that process easier.
But I was told, like, the words that she used, like, call your OB and they'll get you scheduled for a DNC when they can get you in. Like, those words, it's like, your situation's not urgent for us. We'll fit you in when we can. That's how that comes off, though. Like,
yeah,
there needs to be a better practice around verbiage in the medical field.
Word choice, yeah.
So that all happened. So we come home and we are in the thick of just processing what has just happened.
This is still New Year's Day.
Yeah. Well, we went to your mom's first.
Yeah,
the kids were at your mom's.
We had to go get our 3 children from my mom's house.
We stayed there for a little bit because she was feeding everyone too. Like, you and I were not going to be cooking food that day.
Nice to have dinner while we were there.
And it got to the point, though, later that evening, I'm sitting on the couch, and like his dad had football on, and nothing against your parents. Like, nothing like that. This is just me.
They were trying to distract us.
Yeah.
They expressed their sympathies when we got there, but it sort of went to, okay, now we're just over there for dinner type of thing, which is good and bad. But
it hit me, though. Like,
yeah, you realize we're just sitting here like it's normal, and it's not.
Like, I literally, I think I looked at you. I was like, because I cried. I started crying. And you're like, what's wrong? And I was like, I was just told, we were just told 7 hours ago our baby no longer has a heartbeat, and I'm sitting here watching football. Like, this isn't okay. Again, not blaming, like, your parents did nothing wrong. It's just,
No, they were trying to help. That's on us.
Just the situation, like it just.
Yeah, that's on us.
This isn't okay.
Yeah.
Like,
if we wanted it to be quiet and introspective, then you should have went home earlier.
Right.
Yeah,
it was just what my head was processing was like.
Right. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Why am I sitting here doing this?
Right. So, but when it came to the medical side of things, I agreed. I did not want to do the pill option because I did not want to put myself, like I was already in so much pain as it was. I didn't want to put myself through more pain in front of our kids. We had pretty much come to the conclusion that we were okay if we passed naturally at home. We were preferring the option of a D&C if we could get one quickly because of the pain and the blood loss.
And we've found out later from friends who have gone through this, unfortunately, that if you pass it at home, usually you still need a D&C, but also that the D&C helps you heal faster.
Which I will say it did.
Better.
Yeah. So
more expedited timeline. Not that is to be the focus of the situation. We've tried to keep the focus on Basil throughout this whole thing, not putting our own comfort or feelings in front of, like, I just don't want to do this type of decision making. But there's also, you were bleeding a lot. And when we found out that he no longer had a heartbeat, my next concern was, why are you bleeding so much? Is there anything else that we need to be concerned about? I never seemed to got talked about in the emergency room. And I sort of assumed for the reason that there wasn't anything else to worry about. I mean, they did an ultrasound, they looked for bleeds and everything. I believe they said your hematoma was not there anymore.
They didn't see it.
Okay. But healing you was my next, like, concern 1B to the 1A of making sure that we advocate for ourselves and for our son within the medical system that is not situated by default to give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we've been saying Basil's name for a little bit, so I do want to kind of jump back to that for a second about how he got his name, because obviously we didn't know if he was a boy or girl. But when we lost John, RJ, I'll let you go ahead and share this experience. That way you have more. Like, you shared how
for John.
Yeah, how you came up with the names.
Oh well, so when we lost John in September of 22, because Josie was born May of 24.
It was 6 months after Henry.
Okay. Oh, it was yeah, that's right. Yes. It was the same year Henry was born. And he was born in March. So we miscarried in September of 22. I was on a week-long trip for my job and I was in the hotel room, and I was at a trade show. And I could, after a certain point in the day, it's funny when you text your spouse how you can just tell when something's wrong. It's like, 20% reduction in word count, something's up. And you eventually called me when I was in the hotel, and I can still remember what this hotel room looked like, And in the same breath, I heard that we were pregnant and that we weren't pregnant anymore. And that was September 14th, which is the feast day for the exaltation of the cross, but it's also the repose of St. John Chrysostom. And being so early in the pregnancy, you don't know if it's boy or girl. I posted in an Orthodox men's group, Orthodox dads group on Facebook, which I don't get on Facebook anymore. I don't remember the name of it. For advice, I asked my godfather for advice. He gave me the same advice that Facebook did. And I wish I could remember if it was more than one guy, the guys' names that suggested this is extremely helpful. But just to name the baby for the saint celebrated that day, if you don't know a gender, I'll let you explain the connection to Saint John. So it ended up that was on the 14th. So we went with Saint John Chrysostom, but there wasn't any remains or anything.
No, it's too early.
The term is chemical pregnancy, which
I hate.
Again, is a very cold and calculated term for something. So that was why John's name is John, and Basil's name is after Saint Basil the Great, because we found out New Year's Day, January 1st, of this news, and either I can't remember if it was before the ultrasound or if it was after the ultrasound. When we got the news and I looked up, I didn't know whose feast day it was.
It's because
that
you
day.
talked to Father. You were on the phone with Father, and he said he had just left liturgy because there's liturgy.
No,
for
that
Basil.
was David, my godfather.
Oh, I thought it was Father John.
Oh no,
It was Father
sorry,
John.
yeah, you're right. Father John, yeah, I think did say that because he was on a vacation with his family, and he went to liturgy New Year's Day.
For St. Basil, and that's how we knew.
No, well, I told him that we were naming him Basil, and he said he had just left liturgy for him. But I can't remember if I looked it up before the ultrasound or after. If it was before, it was to figure out who to ask for intercessions. I did the same thing when we went for the first ultrasound, I think, and we found the hematoma.
Yeah.
So just sitting in the emergency room asking for prayers, and I forget. I'd have to go back and look at the date. I wish I could remember which saint that was. But yeah, just found out it was Saint Basil, and then realized the connection of the three holy hierarchs between Saint John and Saint Basil. So, not that they're worldly brothers, but brothers in Christ. So it seemed fitting.
And I'll talk more about the spiritual side of all that in next week's episode. In my own connections.
I guess we've blended it a little bit here, but
yeah. But that's how Basil got Basil's name. And I had, with every single one of our pregnancies, I've always had an idea as to what the gender was, and I have never been wrong. Josie was spot on. Even with reading about Saint Tatiana of Rome and seeing her bond with her dad, I was like, that's Josie. She's going to be a girl. She's going to be a daddy's girl. And man, was I right. So I've always had an idea. I just get this instinct. And I had the same thing with Basil. I told you from the beginning, he's going to be a boy.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else did too. Your mom, Jamie, like everyone was like, you're having a boy. Like, you just tell. You just carry the boy. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure too. And then it happened, and Basil is his name. And honestly, I love it. I've really come to just love Basil as his name. But so back to the medical stuff. So we come home, and I was told to call the OB the next day because it was New Year's Day. So that was Thursday. So then Friday.
Yeah, by the time we got home from my parents, it was
also like 7 o'clock.
It was bedtime for everybody, but I don't think I didn't fall asleep until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
The next morning. And I think the kids got up at 6 or something.
Yeah. So Friday, which was January 2nd, I called, and I had to leave a voicemail on the nurse's message box to schedule a D&C. This is my normal OBs on the other side of the counties, honestly. And someone from the desk, the receptionist desk, calls me back and says, we need to get you in for a consultation. And I was like, I was just at the ER. I need a D&C. She goes, yeah, but you need a consultation first. I said, okay, when? And she goes, next Friday is my first available.
For an
in-person consultation 50 minutes away while I'm currently bleeding in a miscarriage. And I lost it. I feel bad for this lady. It's not my greatest moment, but it turned out to be really well the way it worked out.
Well, it's a lesson in advocating for yourself, especially if you have non-mainstream beliefs.
Yes.
Well, this isn't even because of our religious beliefs.
It's just health.
Yeah, just you have to advocate for yourself.
Yes, the medical system is not rigged to put you first.
Well,
just, they're so busy. They go off of when they can get you in.
Right. Which, I mean, a system has to have guidelines and rules and expectations. Just when you interact with that system, you have to know what they're setting as their guidelines and rules and expectations.
But it should be like a triage. You take the most important patients first, and if a miscarriage comes in, that should get bumped up.
I mean, I try to see both sides of everything. I understand. My point is that you have to advocate for yourself because you have to know when you're going into it what they're going to most likely say, which is we'll fit you in when we can fit you in.
Yes.
Which is what, and then you proceeded to advocate for yourself, to put it politely.
Aggressively. While I was on the phone with her, I said, "Are you kidding?" It's like, I am currently miscarrying my baby, and the soonest you can get me in for a consultation is next Friday. And she got real quiet. She goes, "Let me talk to the other nurses," and put me on hold. Comes back and says, "I can get you a virtual appointment today at 3:00 with the office in Grove City." I was like, that sounds great. So.
Did you say thank you?
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay, good.
So, turns out this new doctor who's an angel, his name is Dr. Barker. He's an OB out of the UPMC Women's Specialty Office out of Grove City. So if anyone local listening needs a really good OB, go to this guy.
Who we've never met in person.
Yeah, I've not met him in person yet. I've had 2 conversations with him, and he has been one of the biggest angels through this whole experience. Apparently, he actually tried to call my cell phone, and I never got it. So when I got on the telehealth call at 3:00, he goes, "I tried to call you 2 hours ago."
Oh, wow.
And I had never gotten it.
I wonder if it just went to spam.
He's like, I've been like, they let me know about your case, and I was trying to call you because I wanted to get this fixed sooner.
My, that would have been like 2 hours after you talked to the scheduling department. Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm sorry, I didn't get a phone call. And he goes, "Please explain to me everything that happened in the ER." And so I did. He goes, "This was at McGee?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "That should never have happened." He was like, "I get it that your blood loss technically was not life-threatening level, but had I been there, you would have had a D&C that day, because the emotional toll that this is taking on you right now, plus the amount of pain you're in, this should have been taken care of day of. You should not be having to wait for a D&C." It's like, "I am so sorry on behalf of UPMC for how you were treated." And I was like dumbstruck. I was like, "Thank you." And
you're not prepared for the pendulum to swing the other way.
No. And before I had gotten on the call with him, they had scheduled me then for a D&C on Monday. So like before I even got on, because they were like, "Have you talked to Dr. Barker yet?" And I was like, "No, I'm not supposed to talk to him until 3:00. They were like, "Okay, well, we're getting you on for Monday. We're not sure the time yet, all these things, but we're getting you on for Monday. He'll run through the procedure with you on the call." So I'm on the call with him, and I had explained all that, and he apologized for everything that happened to us. And he goes, "If I can get this to happen sooner, will you do it sooner?" And I was like, "Yes, like as soon as I can get in, yes. I have, like, the pain and the bleeding has to stop." And I said, my biggest concern, though, was the remains. If we could take Basil home so we can put him to rest. And he goes, "Absolutely." And he never once called Basil tissue or demise or anything, because I had other questions, and he referred to Basil as a baby. And he said that he was sorry for the loss of our baby. And I had a question for him because I got, like, when we were at the hospital, excuse me, when we were at the hospital, they told us there was no heartbeat, but they didn't tell us anything else. They didn't tell us, like, if they saw the hematoma, they didn't tell us the size of the baby, like, they didn't tell us anything else. So I got the ultrasound reports to my phone in the app. So I got the ultrasound reports on my phone to the app, and I looked, and it said that the size of the baby was 8 weeks and 2 days, but the gestational sac was 6 weeks and 4 days. And so I asked him, I said, what does that mean? Does that mean that the placenta wasn't growing? And he said, no. That means that it would have just been in the last day or two that the baby had passed. And he used those words, baby had passed. He said that the baby was measuring at 8 weeks and 2 days, but unfortunately, when the baby passes, they stop producing amniotic fluid, so the sac, the gestational sac, starts to shrink. And so that's why the sac was measuring at 6 and 4. And just the fact that he kept using the word baby brought so much comfort to me. So he said, let me call my colleagues. I'm going to try and get something figured out. I'll call you back in 15 minutes. And I said, okay. And sure enough, he called me right back in 15 minutes. And he said, I have you in for a D&C tomorrow morning. So this was on January 3rd, which was yesterday. So this was yesterday. So I have you on for a D&C tomorrow morning at the other hospital, the smaller one up north. And he's like, it's a little bit different though, because they don't usually have a full OR staffed because it's a Saturday. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in through the emergency room, tell them that you're here for the procedure. My colleague so-and-so is going to do it. She'll come down and get you from the emergency room and take you up for it. So he got a full OR staffed and his colleague to go in after hours on a Saturday when they don't usually have anyone, just for us to be able to go get a D&C. And like, I think I called you crying, like that we had just found this angel of an OB who just understood it. And when I was on the phone with him and I thanked him so much, I was like, you are the kindest doctor that I have spoken to through this entire experience. And he said, when everything is done and you're ready, come see me and we will talk through all of it. Any question that we have, because this is now 2 pregnancies in a row that I've had a hematoma. Granted, this one was much bigger, but any questions we have, like, he would answer. And I'm hoping that this means that I'll have a doctor that fights for me on progesterone the next round, when and if we do get pregnant again. A doctor that at least listens and will actually try for what it is that I'm asking for. So yesterday morning, I mean, the hospital is an hour and 6 minutes from us, so it's not close. We get up so early and we head up there and we get into the ER at 6:30. It was a tiny hospital. I mean, the waiting room was like the size of our dining room and living room put together. It's kind of nice. They didn't know what to do at first because, like, no one had communicated that we were supposed to, but like the OR team was ready. They just, like, the lady at the ER just didn't know that we were what we were there for. But they got us up there to the OR floor. They still had it in the system that my surgery was scheduled for Monday. So, like, they had the confusion on the bands that I had to wear on my wrist, and they just had to fix that in the system. But everyone was there. And they were great. When we walked in, there was no one, like, it was just the OR team that was there for us. There was no extra staff. There was no other patients. Everything had just been cleaned. We had the entire OR floor to ourselves. Not just the OR prep, not just the OR, the entire floor to ourselves. It was quiet. And then my pre-op nurse, I heard her accent. And I asked her, I knew what she was going to say. And I was like, where are you from? And she said, Russia. And she's Orthodox. And my godmother, Elena, who I love so much, is Russian and is Orthodox. And she's from Russia and has that thick accent. And our pre-op nurse reminded me so much of Elena and just brought so much comfort. And it was amazing being able to have another like Orthodox person. Us too, and her husband's Ukrainian. They said that they were attending a parish in Ohio, I think. And so that was like, it felt like a God wink to me. It was just like this extra layer of comfort God was bringing to us, to already this blessing of the last minute DNC being happening, and like this really supportive OB staff that we got connected with out of nowhere. Like it was like an extra layer of comfort that God was like, hey, there's a really sweet Russian Orthodox nurse that you're going to love. And then the OB came in, which was not Dr. Barker. It was a different doctor. I don't want to keep listing doctor names because I don't know if I should do that or not. I'm only saying Dr. Barker's name because I'm giving him praise. And like, if you live locally, you should go see him. But the OB came in, his colleague, and she was wonderful too. She was really good too. She went through everything with us. She answered our questions. We asked about the progesterone. We asked about the hematoma sizes and everything, and she answered all of the questions for us. I still think if we do get pregnant again, I'm going to get my levels checked again and fight for progesterone if I need it, because I know it's been an issue. But it has been pretty much explained to us that like they don't have enough statistics to do progesterone hormone therapy across the board, because it hasn't shown statistically enough that it increases placenta growth as much to successful pregnancies, but it has also not shown that it's harmful.
Oh, I mean, they didn't say that, but I guess that's the assumption.
Yeah. But it sounds like the way she's wearing, like they would talk with me and possibly be like, take it case by case basis and actually work with me. Because I asked more generically, like, why is that the policy? Not really, would you do this? But they were really great. They got us ready for, and we were just quiet. Like I was quiet. I had a really hard time with the idea. That Basil was being removed from me. The safest place he had been for the last 8.5 weeks was in my belly. And he was being removed aggressively. Like a DNC is not a clean procedure. But I had to keep reminding myself that his soul was already gone. His soul was with Christ, and at this point it was coming down to the safety of my body. And we needed to just get him out so we could put his remains to rest. But I had a hard time with that. And then they were ready to go. I mean, it was quick. They were ready to go, and they came over to give me... they never said what medication it was, but some calming medication, anti-anxiety medicine or something that they have to give before. It's just Twilight that they put you under. You laughed because like they just like stared at me like they were.
I wasn't laughing then.
No, now looking back though, it was like they were just like, it wasn't calming me down as fast as I think they thought it was going to.
Extremely anxious.
I was. It felt like there was just like a brick in my chest. And also, like, I know a DNC is not a super invasive procedure, but just like any surgery, especially after you have kids, like I have 3 kids at home. I want to make sure I get home to my kids. Like any surgery is scary when you become a parent. So they gave the calming medicine. I started getting a little dizzy and I started calming down. It did work. I remember you kissed me goodbye. They took me out into the hall. I remember being in the OR. I know what the OR looks like. They were trying to get my arm strapped, but realized I needed to be scooched down further. And as soon as they scooched me down, I have no memory. None. It was done after that. And I swear, I think it was 3 seconds went by and I woke up. Like, it was ridiculously fast. They said expect an hour to, like, wake up and be ready to leave, basically, from Twilight. I was up within a couple of minutes of them bringing me back. First thing I asked for was you. I woke up and I said, asking where you were. And I think you said I got upset.
Yeah, you woke up once, and my fear was because you were anxious when you went under, was that you would wake up anxious. Just fear of what was going to be going through your mind when you woke up, really.
I wanted to know where you were, and it hit me that he was gone. Like, he wasn't with me anymore.
Right.
He
you
is.
Expressed that. I'm not going to repeat word for word what you said, but
no,
you expressed that sentiment. And I wanted you to stay calm because I didn't want you to hurt yourself or anything. And then you fell back asleep for a little bit, and then you woke up.
And that was it. We were able to come home.
Yeah.
And I know that there's like so much controversy online, especially from what I've been talking about with so many people online about DNCs or passing a miscarriage naturally at home. I personally, in my situation, am very thankful that I got the DNC. One, had I passed at home, I would have, like we even said, had I passed at home Friday night, I still would have went in for the procedure Saturday morning because we needed to make sure I was okay because of how much I was bleeding. We need to make sure everything was good. And my experience coming out of the DNC, I had no pain. Like, my pain has been so minimal. I've taken one ibuprofen today since the surgery. I didn't take anything yesterday. I've had very minimal pain, and my bleeding has drastically went down. I mean, I think I told you last night, it was the first night in a month that I didn't have to wear a pad. Like, it had just, for me, the DNC changed everything. My body was able, not even was able, my body started healing right away. And I felt better physically. I felt like I could do stuff. So in my experience, I'm thankful that we did get the DNC, and also the hospital is giving us his remains. And they made sure of that. They took care of us with that, because I think the nurse said that she called, or the OB.
The pathology manager.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Then one nurse, the surgical nurse, said she called the manager at pathology where his remains were moved to, because they have to process them out, and that they were going to take care of it. And
to make sure we were able to pick him up tomorrow.
Yeah, God willing, we'll pick him up tomorrow.
They took care of us. Every concern we had, every worry we had, they took care of it. And I'm thankful for that experience, that it changed. Like, the experiences going into this were drastically different to the experiences we had yesterday and Friday. And I'm very thankful for that medical team and what they did. I'm thankful that I am healing. I am thankful for our community. They have just, your mom watching the kids, our friends bringing dinners, our friends taking the kids for a few hours and watching them, our friends answering every question we could possibly have who have also gone through this, our priest going out of his way to get a hold of the monastery and figure all that out for us, and your godfather calling the monastery. I mean, your godfather's in California, and he called the monastery here in Pennsylvania to make sure that we have a place for Basil to go. Like, our community has just, and we didn't even know that your godfather had called them until he texted us. Like, our community has been amazing, and we still have, they're still pitching in. We've got friends bringing us meals all week. And not even the in-person stuff. I know you're not online, but like, my online community with the Murmuring Mother, they have been incredible. The amount of prayers and messages and comments have just been amazing. Every story that I post, they'll send me messages just like, thank you for sharing this, or like they'll be like, I'm praying for you. Or today I got so many messages of Orthodox families who said that they lit a candle for Basil in our family at church. So many of them reached out. There's one who's sending us a prayer rope that she's making for Basil. There's one that's sending us a miscarriage gift box thing. One is sending us herbs to help my body heal. Like, I cannot express our gratitude enough, because the community has just been incredible. And I don't know what we did to deserve it. I don't feel worthy of it. Like,
I don't either. No, it makes me feel like going through this. And we've had family crises before, and people have already done. I've always done this. I mean, even just like having Josie, people bring food and things like that.
Bugs.
Yeah, when your brother passed away, but for whatever reason, this time seemed like even above and beyond those, and just in reflecting on that has made me realize, like, I feel like I haven't done anything for anybody with the amount of love that's been poured onto us to get through this. Like, next time I know somebody that's going through something,
I will go out of my way to make sure they have everything they need.
Yeah, it's just fun. I really appreciate the love, but also it is somewhat made me feel like a piece of garbage for my community. Like, I feel like I don't do anything.
We do.
In reflecting on how much has been given to us in this time. Yeah, I know we do, but just
the community. I don't feel worthy. Like,
yeah,
they've just been. I mean, some of these people, I don't even know them personally. That's what's beautiful about the online world, though. Like, you just connect with so many people, but especially when you're Orthodox. And you feel this at any niched community, but especially when you're Orthodox, like, it's just like you meet someone online who's Orthodox, and it's like, okay, you're my sister.
Yeah.
You're my brother or sister in Christ. And they have come together just as that.
You can measure the health of a community by, whether that's where you live or your parish or your online community, by how they band together when one person in that community is in need. And I don't know, if you're some Orthodox statistician, measuring the health of the online Orthodox community, it's doing well.
The village is pretty great, at least in our experience.
Yes.
So that's all I have medically right now. I mean, that's all there is medically, I guess. We're through the medical part, hopefully.
Yeah, God willing. We just rested in recovery now.
The nurse, the one surgical nurse yesterday did ask me if we wanted more. And just as many as God gives us, but it's not something I'm thinking about right now. It's not. I told you, I think last night. Like, for this one, it felt, we had a friend point this out to me the other day, because I'm like, why is this, like, anytime you miscarry, it's excruciatingly hard, but like, this one is just, I don't know. And she goes, Joe, this has been a traumatic pregnancy. It's not even a traumatic miscarriage. Like, you've been fighting from the beginning with this one.
It has been a very long 2 months.
Yeah. Well,
for you, physically, for our family, trying to navigate it the best we could. Mom being laid up in bed for a day or two at a time.
And but it also just hit me harder, because it's like, I felt like I fought so hard for this pregnancy beforehand too.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, we've both said as many as God gives us, but for me, I'm done tracking. I'm truly leaning into just as many as God gives us. Like, my type A self has let go. I'm done tracking. I'm not. The emotional toll the last 6 months has taken, the mental space that all of this is just. I mean, it was worth it because we had Basil.
Right.
But if we're meant to have more children, God will continue to give them to us when He seems fit. And I'm done peeing on sticks and tracking every blessed part of my cycle. I just want to enjoy our life. And just, if I miss a period, then hey, guess what? We're probably pregnant.
Yeah. You'll know if we're pregnant. You'll figure it out eventually. That's more easy going, I guess.
But it's not something I'm thinking about anytime soon right now.
That's handing it over to God.
Yes. That's all I wanted. And I told you the other day, the moment she said that Basil didn't have a heartbeat, like something broke. Not in a way to be concerned, though, which you've made sure. There was Jill before we found out that we lost him. And now there's Mary. I'm back into my Bible. And this will be more in the spiritual stuff next week too, but I feel like I've prayed more in the past couple days than I have in a long time. I'm not ready to go back to church yet, but that's not because of church. That's because I don't want to be around everyone who all knows what has happened. I'm not ready for that yet. Like, I'll do all the online stuff, but I'm not ready to be around the people physically yet.
For all the hugs and the crying.
Yeah, I feel like I've cried so much, I don't even know if I'm producing tears now. So that's everything on the medical side. We'll dive more into the spiritual stuff next week. But I did want to share really quickly, because I did post in my stories on the Myrrh-bearing Mother about questions from the community. I explained that this would be a 2-part episode on the medical side of everything that's happened, and then next week the Orthodox and spiritual side. Because God willing, we are hoping that we have him Basil buried this week and can have like a completed experience to come to next Sunday when we record. But that's with the understanding this week that like we are working around a monastery that we have theophany, and where we live currently has like 5 inches of snow. So we're like, there's a lot we're navigating at the moment. But I did have someone reach out, which many people listening probably know. Her name's Christina. She owns Ortho Life and has a YouTube channel. And she reached out in the question box and explained. So they had recently, like in the last week, just done a YouTube episode where she interviewed Matushka Anna about miscarriage and pregnancy loss. And I have not watched the whole video yet. Many have sent it to me, but we've been in the thick of it, so I have not wanted to kind of watch that yet. I don't really know what the episode's even about, other than that it's about miscarriage and pregnancy loss. But she said that she had a comment, a very aggressive and nasty comment, from someone that they ended up having to block, who said that this commenter they are a couple that has struggled with infertility and they don't have children, and they feel that parents with children who have miscarriages should not be allowed to talk about their miscarriages because they have children, that their pain wouldn't be the same, because those who deal with infertility and don't have kids, they can talk about their miscarriages because they don't have kids. And it came to me as like, how would I respond to this? Because through this whole experience, I will say, like, I've posted, I think, 2 reels since all this has happened. And I say hundreds, the one reel, thousands of comments have all been positive and loving and stories being shared. There has only been one person that I have had to block because of they were a medical professional, apparently, who just did not like my experience that I had with the medical world, and they didn't like that I was calling it out. And I did have to block them because they did get aggressive in their commenting. Other than that, though, every single comment, and I mean hundreds, have been positive and loving and supportive, and I'm very, very thankful for that. I have no problem blocking. I mean, as many people know who listen and follow on the Murdering Mother, I have no problem commenting back to people now, and I also have absolutely no problem blocking. So if a person is getting very aggressive, I will absolutely block. So in this experience, in this situation that was presented on OrthoLife on this, my response first and foremost is that unfortunately, people who are blinded by their own pain and trauma are so blinded to the fact that they don't even feel other people could have pain or trauma, unfortunately. So I want to pray for this person because they are going through something very hard. We have very close friends of ours who have struggled with infertility for years. And I mean, I pray for them. That is such an unimaginable battle to struggle with in life. And we had talked about earlier in the episode where I said, like, that hasn't really been a struggle for us with our pregnancies, except this was the first time that I felt like I really had to work for us to get pregnant. Like, it took quite a few months to get there. Not saying we struggled with it like infertility, but it just, so I can empathize, especially after having like really worked for this pregnancy, I guess, through that. So I'm sorry for what this person is going through. I don't know this person. I did not see the comment myself personally, but I am sorry for what that person is going through. But my response would be this. It does not matter if you have 0 children or if you have 10 or 15 kids. Life begins at conception. And if you have children and you miscarry, you absolutely should talk about that baby. You absolutely are allowed to talk about that baby, to talk about what you experienced, to talk about that pain, to grieve, to mourn out loud. Like, you are allowed to do that. You lost a child. No one is allowed to tell you you can't talk about that just because you don't have the same experience as them. And like I said earlier in the show too, I'm not comparing grief. I'm not saying it's a competition. It's not. It's not a competition. But parents, I don't even mean to say but. Parents who have children have experienced those milestones. So when we lost Basil, when we lost John, I knew the milestones we were going to miss because we've gone through them with all 3 of our kids.
The loss of potential.
Which I know that parents who don't have kids also know that, but it is different when you have experienced it and you know you're going to miss out on that. It's not a competition. I need that to be clear. This is not I'm not saying one is worse than the other. My point is that every single mother who has lost a child is allowed to talk about that regardless of how many children they have, because that baby matters and you matter as a mother. If you have been struggling with infertility and you've had miscarriages and you don't have children, you're still a mother. Mm-hmm. Your children are in heaven.
We have 5 children.
We do. And so to that person, I am sorry for what they've gone through. And I pray for them. If they got aggressive, I don't blame them. I don't blame Christina with blocking them. Unfortunately, that is just the bad side to social media. But I want to make sure that every single mother knows, regardless of how many children you have or don't have, if you have miscarried or lost a child, you are allowed and you should talk about that baby. You should remember them because may their memory be eternal. And they should all be remembered.
When we wrap it up, do you want to talk about the the compiling of all the resources that have been shared with you on your Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't know the terms.
Yeah. So on the Murmuring Mother on my Instagram, yesterday or 2 days ago, I think it was, I'd posted asking for any resources. Originally, I was really just looking for books for me to be able to read, if I'm being completely honest. But then I had a lot of people DM me asking, can you please share these? And absolutely, like everyone should have access to these resources. And I was not expecting the flood of resources to come in that came in. Like, I think it was the most engaged box I've ever put in a story. There were so many that there were also so many duplicates that I didn't post every single response because it was like there were going to be 5 of the same response. So I made sure that at least one of every single response got put up. And I mean, I think it's close to like 50 different resources that went up. Like there's so many, from books to blogs to songs to gift sets to stores to shop from, like any resource you can imagine. A lot of them, like 90% of them, are all Orthodox. Some of them are not, but still really good. Majority of them are Orthodox. And they have all been saved. It's on a highlight bubble right on my profile. It says lost support. And you can just click that bubble and it is filled with resources. So if you or someone you know has gone through this and you think that they could benefit from it, I mean, go to that highlight bubble, and anywhere you could need to go is in that one. And I also, to anyone listening, I want to thank you. If you're someone who sent a resource in, thank you, because you are helping so many more people than you realize with that.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. I know. I feel like in my own head, I've been like, people are probably wondering why, I addressed this in my stories today, but like, why am I sharing so much in the middle of it instead of like after? And like, here we are.
Still in the middle of it.
Doing a podcast episode. And I share that, one, this is personally for me how I process talking it through. So it helps me because I'm not bottling it up. I'm working it through with you. We've had endless conversations for the past couple of days, mostly with me just talking. Which, thank you for listening.
Of course.
And me sharing full transparency in my stories. And I'm kind of using it as like my online diary at this point, which I've said that. But like, also, there have been so many women who have gone through this that have felt isolated and that felt so alone in their experience. I want to make sure that they know that they're not. And that there is resources and there's women who understand this pain and people that they could talk to and things that they could turn to. And that's kind of how I feel with this podcast episode too. We're sharing the medical side. Next week we'll talk about God willing, the Orthodox and the spiritual side that we've experienced through all of this. And so I just want to thank everyone for listening and allowing me, because it's been me online, but also you in this episode, to be transparent and to be honest about what we've experienced. I know this episode was a little bit more on like the physical side of what kind of like my body went through, but thank you, because this was your idea to do this for the episodes. So thank you.
You're welcome.
If you liked the episode, this feels weird ending this episode like this, but podcasting. If you liked the episode, like what you heard, if you've listened to the other 2 episodes, you think someone could benefit from this episode, maybe find peace in some of the stuff we're talking about, also know that they're not alone. Please subscribe, like, share it, all of the things. And we would appreciate it, but also the people that would be listening to this who I would pray that would also benefit from what we're talking about. They would also benefit from it and would appreciate that. So thank you for your support, and we will see you next week.
Good night.